Hello, and welcome to another episode of Tarot for Our Times. It's been a very busy day with court cases, injunctions, stopping action, and so much it's enough to make your head spin. But there was one that came out this afternoon that I find interesting because it seems to support, well, not it seems to point to my psychic hit about one of the lost boys maybe being a spy in the camp. It turns out that the elder one, Marco Ellis, got kicked out of the boys' club because of some old racist tweets that he had on X. And from what I read the NPR article about it, and apparently, at first I saw it on Facebook, and then I said, "Oh, got to look this up." And then I found that NPR and a whole bunch of other people confirmed it. And they, although the tweets were deleted, they did something. Don't know about this stuff. They did something called the Wayback, which can dig up a deleted posts. And this is a very interesting thing because they merely confirmed it, but someone had to clue someone in that they in fact existed because they were deleted. So could it be one of the Muskrat's boys? And this brings me to that this is brought to you by the Five of Wands. The interesting thing about this card is if you look at it real closely, and if you see it in other decks, these are young guys that are duking it out and fighting. And when I heard this story, this card immediately came to mind because I have a strong feeling that with the five remaining, there's probably a lot of fighting. Is like, how did this break? Somebody had to tell. And I would highly suspect there's a lot going on behind closed doors. Now, as this story breaks, I'm going to give it one tower, but with the potential to turn into a three tower story, because this is one of those little things that, well, it's not so little, it's one of those things that in the day of the news, they've been stopped from doing this, and all kinds of stuff is starting to go the way of the good guys, so to speak. And in the Senate, the big story in the Senate had a Mr. Smith Goes to Washington session last night, where people were up there talking all night long to stop some horrible nomination from going through. So there's a lot going on. I do believe that this is going to pick up some traction because I really get a sense he was the oldest guy. This was the oldest guy. Something tells me he very well could have been. I was looking at those pictures and I'm thinking, that's probably got to be the alpha male. Where the one that was like 19, he's Elon's little pet, little prodigy pet. But I think this older one was the leader. So whoever is up to some mischief, definitely, I do definitely believe that there's something going on that we don't know about, and it will develop into a big story. Now, the thing that could be causing tension was that I was watching Hogarth's show, and they were discussing this, and as it turns out, what the hell is that called? There's an old program that goes back to the early 80s, I think, that a lot of the people in the comments were talking about. But at any rate, it's so obsolete that the youngins, even the most brilliant computer engineers, it's old, and it's a code that they can't crack. And God bless the whoever set this up in the Treasury to do this. I guess maybe it was either like, why change it? Or it could have been, with all those young whiz kids out there, let's keep the old thing that, the young hackers can't get into. So those are the possibilities. But as I'm saying, this is really interesting. And let's see. The thing is that when I chose the Five of Wands, and as you'll see on the thumbnail, if it's the right size for YouTube, I've run into some problems, but as I was making it up, I had all the photos of these guys, and they said, "Oh, there's 6, but this is the Five of Wands," and I said, get a grip. Don't be such a purist. It's the thought and the feeling. Well, now we're down to the 5 wands in the conflict. So that's kind of interesting. So let's see. What will we read about? Okay, so let's see. So are they turning on each other? That's the first read. Are they turning on each other? I mean, I didn't prepare this too much because this is one of those things that kind of prepares itself. I will have to tell you, I did a reading today. I used these 2 decks and picked a lot of cards, so I had to sort them all out. And it's so funny, I left one of these little fellas. I just noticed as I was getting ready to do this, I found one of these little guys in this deck, and you can't make this stuff up. The spy in the camp, the page of swords in reverse. So the little tattletale dude there, I thought, I cannot believe that it was just, it was almost lost in here. So that's kind of interesting. So keeping our good old friend, the Five of Wands, in mind, I'm going to, I guess the first thing is, are they, okay. First thing should be, is there the one guy that unearthed this and kind of let it leak out? Because I was thinking this guy was whoever this is, he's going to do the little Chinese water torture leak stuff. And this is pretty big, removing one of them. Okay, so is there the one who let the press know? Interesting. Major arcanas are usually yes cards, and even if they're in reverse. So we have the Star in reverse, and I'm going to say that the star of the show needed to be taken out, because as I looked at other photos that have been posted all over the place, that 25-year-old, that Marco, the caption read, he's Elon's favorite. So he was surely the lead dog. So if there is the spy in the camp that is out to undermine this thing, take out the star. Take out the star first. And so the star's in reverse and he's gone. That's the energy. I'm going to say I think these guys are a little bit out of sorts now because of that. So let's see what we have as the energy. This is the Fool upright. Now, assuming this happened, having done that, I'm going to say that if somebody did this deliberately in that group, I'm going to say it was going to take a leap of faith to do that, and I'm going to suspect that they figured, well, I'll be pushed up the ladder a little bit and may be able to dig some more dirt on people. So I will take this chance, and it worked out. I think it was very calculated. He heard the guy say some racist things. He looked at X and figured, there's got to be something here, and he probably unearthed it and used that program that NPR did, called it the Wayback. I think that's such a riot. So boys and girls, for social media 101, that's a real example of nothing disappears on the internet. So if you have a glass or two of Chardonnay, be careful what you post. Okay, you never know. So let's see. Underneath all of this is okay. This is trying to balance. It's like balancing out in the material world. I think there could be some money involved in this. I don't know if it's money for blackmail or something like that, but there's something that this has. As I said, this is not political. I think it's personal. Wow, this is interesting. Another Pentacle card. This is the Four of Pentacles in reverse. So that means that someone is very. It's the stingy card. And so I'm going to take this as seeing it all here. I'm going to take this as the meaning, instead of it being opposite, that it's even stronger, like it's on steroids. It's like greedy, and as a friend of mine used to say, pinching the nickel until the buffalo screamed, kind of a person. So I would say maybe if someone's suspecting someone, maybe look for the cheapskate in the crowd. Okay. And then we have the world. So I'm going to say that a motive in this would definitely be to bring this all to an end. It's kind of ironic that this happened on the day that the court, filed an injunction, and they pretty much shut it down with some concessions, but they made them because I think legally that this whole thing is going to be shut down, and it's. I was thinking, well, they still have the stuff anyway, but apparently it's a program an old program that's very hard to crack, and it's especially. I'm keeping my fingers crossed that all those people on Hogarth's show tonight were right about it's. If you were not doing this stuff in like 1982, these people were not even born then. It's really, 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 really hard to do this. So I'm just going to hold on to that piece of hope. So in the past, we have the King of Pentacles. I'm going to say that these boys are all from very wealthy family backgrounds. And from the names that sound a little bit on the odd side, I'm going to say that it sounds like that these guys are from South Africa, and and they could be Afrikaners. I don't know. I don't want to make a blanket statement about all, but historically they've been really pro apartheid, which could explain this kid's racist posts. So they're all from sort of like money and privilege, and maybe thinking that this is the rich father. This is the rich father card. They're thinking that that's going to protect them. Oh boy. Okay. Then they have the Page of Pentacles in reverse, which I'm going to say that that they've gotten themselves into a very, very unhealthy venture, and if there's someone out to sabotage it, that's even more. That's plenty more. So in the conscious thoughts, now that there's all, and I think there's other things going on that's really slowing this down. These boys are wondering if this is going to really not move forward. And it's time is not really on their side right now, as far, because this is going to be clogged up in the courts, and they won't be able to go, if they in fact even have a life, they won't be able to go on with their lives. So I'm going to say this is a worry about this. And then subconsciously, I'm going to say that paranoia, and this tells me this, that they're probably squabbling as we speak. And I'm saying with the paranoia and the conflict, it's got to be quite tense. So consciously, they just or subconsciously, I'm sorry, subconsciously, they want to be like this false image they have of the muskrat. This is like they that apparently the only qualification that needed to do this was that probably two rich fathers connected with him, and they love him. So that's their conscious thing, and that may be what's keeping them there. Okay, so after this whole thing broke, what is going on with them? The the Four of Pentacles. Interesting. That this is this deck's version of this. It's a little bit different because in this one, in this one he's putting them in the box. He's not hanging. I mean, this guy's just like for dear life. He's putting them in the box to hide them, but in the reverse, gravity's pulling them down. He cannot seem to hold on to them. So I'm going to say that this means that they're becoming concerned that this whole thing could be falling apart, that what they had planned and what they were going to get for their Lord and Master is falling apart now. And then we have, here we'd have the good old Two of Pentacles. So I guess they still think that this whole thing is just absolutely wonderful, getting into people's money business. But as you see in the background, that boat is on not the steadiest of waters, and it looks like it's going to capsize. So they're actually still living in a little bit of a fool's paradise. But I'm going to say that this happening is very, very upsetting for them because this wasn't supposed to happen. Except for the one in there, which I'm starting to become a little bit more convinced. Whether we ever find out or not, I think we are. But there's a possibility that we may not. So let's see, in the hopes and the fears, we've got the World in reverse. This is the incomplete task. You cannot make this stuff up. It just still amazes me. Okay, this is the World in reverse. It's a major arcana. We've been getting, we got, a couple of them. Yes, we have been getting them. Major arcana. It's interesting because in the underneath this was the World and the desire to complete the task. This is saying the task is held up and there is some really unfinished business. I would say this is telling me the hope that they would finish it up really fast and go back to South Africa or whatever. That is the task is not completed. It's just not completed, and these spoiled little boys are not used to things like this happening because of the privileged lives they've met. So there's a lot of fear because there's a lot of fear coming into them, and it really brings us back to the Five of Wands. This is really going to cause a conflict because they're going to want to have to blame everyone else but themselves. They got it from their mentor here. Okay, so yeah, the hopes of finishing it up and the fear that they may not. I'm also going to say that they're going to see this one guy's life be ruined over this. So in the non-completion and the exposure, 4 out of them are going to get their lives ruined because of this. So this is gonna be, you get a bunch of immature young dudes, and I wouldn't want to be in their dorm room or wherever they're staying. Okay, so what is going to happen in the near future? Oh boy, oh boy, oh boy. I swear I shuffled this deck. This is the Tower, which means that this whole thing could be falling apart as we speak. This really could be falling apart. And, wowie. And you know what? Look at these. This is what I love about the deck, as I'm always finding. These are crowns up here. I mean, that the little king, the prince, and I'm convinced that this guy was the prince of the heir apparent of this whole thing from the muskrat. And then you've got the muskrats, the king, the other kings. They're like blowing off. It's the you know, this is destroying their illusion of this wonderful guy here. So we've got the tower. This is going to be a disaster. And I have to say, the general, except for the doomsayers, I have to say that with the Senate standing up, and I mean, where I live, there were like a zillion people in front of Fetterman's office today, and court cases, that things are starting to come apart. It's kind of like about time, but it's, and it comes down to, instead of having someone come in to save us, whether it's Jack Smith or Mueller or whatever, it's like everybody doing whatever they can to saying, we've got to save ourselves. I think this is the energy. We've got to save ourselves. This is completely out of the mindset of these boys. It is completely out. But I'm going to say there is one person that has lit the match, so to speak. I really suspect that he has a real axe. As much as they love him, this one person, if there is that spy in the camp, he hates him as much as the rest of the boys love him. This is the near future, tower time. Okay. As time goes on after that, and we get the court cases, the seven of swords. Okay. This symbolizes the muskrat and Trump just absolutely, conning and stealing and getting away with things. When I see this card in reverse, it's telling me a couple of people got a little bit arrogant, and it looks as though they're going to be getting caught. I mean, really caught. And this may not play out today or tomorrow, but I believe that it is going to play out in the future sometime. As these things pile up, that future is getting a little bit narrower. But because there have been so many hopes dashed, I don't want to say, oh, next week or something like that. But I'm going to say it's not going to be 3 or 4 years when this whole thing comes tumbling down. It's a little sooner. I think it's less than 2, but it's very hard to say because there's a lot of free will involved with this. Okay, so in conclusion about the one person setting this thing in motion, Major Arcana, he did not want this to go forward. Just didn't want to go forward and to have everything going wrong with this and getting really stuck in the mud. So that really says, so that I really do believe that there is someone doing something, because I just don't see how this arbitrarily just happened, and in the timing that it did with court cases. I suspect whoever that person is, they saw something in the feed or looked on the news or watched whatever on TV, and they said, okay, this is the time. I think he, because a lot of this stuff got posted last year at the end and got taken down. I think that whoever let this leak out knew it, but he was just waiting for the time, and this is a good time. It's a very good time. Wait until they're getting bumped down with the courts and everything. Kick them when they're down. Yep. So I want to see if and I will try to make this a little shorter. I want to see now as a result of this, are they turning on each other? I mean, this card would indicate it, but I want to read a little bit of the energy around this a little bit more. And instead of focusing on the one kid, I want to say, assuming that this is how it happened. I mean, how is this manifesting itself? That would be really interesting to see. How is this manifesting itself? And I'm going to say within days, this could turn into a 2-tower, then a 3-tower event. And along with this today, that justice in reverse is not so reverse with these court cases. Then in the with judgment and an awakening, I'm going to say the Democrats, or they finally put the fertilizer in and they've grown a pair. It's overdue, so I'm not going to put them down. I'm just saying, as long as it's happening, I don't care. And there's, it's not just Jasmine and AOC anymore. There's others, and in the Senate, Jimmy Stewart time. Okay, and then probably there will be regrets. There is this whole thing falls apart. There will be regrets. So I do like to keep those cards I picked at the beginning of the year, to see that it's interesting with all these readings, to see that they are applicable. So I'm going to say, how are these boys doing with each other? Be kind of interesting to be in there with a bag of popcorn and kind of watch the whole thing. Oh, okay, looks like this one wanted to show its face. Oh, here we go. Okay, this is the failure. This is what's happening now, is the failure of this going really forward on so many different levels. So this is kind of like what's going on right now. And as I say, these are rich, spoiled boys who just are not used to. I mean, they actually, when they walked into that one place where the real heavy-duty records are, they told the girl, oh, move aside. Oh, they're all little spoiled brats here. So, okay. The energy is the Queen of Cups. I'm going to see if she's got okay. Usually in the traditional deck, I'm going to get close in on this cup. Usually there's a lid on the cup. This one there isn't. She's the emotional card. And she's upright. She's trying to keep the lid on it. The lid has come off, and there's some steam coming out of that. So no matter what kind of nurturing vibes are going on, it's going to be boys will be boys. The lid is off and the emotions are running pretty high. So let's see what's beneath all of this. I think even if their mommies were there to tuck them in, that's just not going to calm these kids down. Okay, so then we have going on underneath. This is what they thought was going to move along really fast in the Eight of Wands and hit the target. It hasn't been, with 1980s codes and all this kind of stuff. And then now this. I mean, it's not only this. It's like, I'm going to say there's probably a bunch of other stuff going on that we don't even know about that's been, okay. And then we have the Empress in reverse. And this has been my card for Russia. And I'm going to say that since it's in reverse, Russia's not in such hot shape anymore and isn't exactly Mother Russia. So I'm going to say that what's going on here is similar to the disaster that Russia has had with its treasury being depleted with the war in Ukraine and all the other stuff and then I think this administration they're not exactly kumbaya with Russia, so I haven't heard of any of that stuff being lifted. So I'm going to say that they're kind of in the same position. They look like they're strong, but they're not doing that well. Interesting that should come up. And then we have, okay. I am going to say that there may be, aside from the one that's probably sabotaging them, I think there's another one trying to take that position and being something of a bully and then alienating the other ones. I think that's what's going on here. Okay, so and then let's see, in the opposition, we've got justice. It was all kind of moving along until the courts put pretty much of a stop to it, and then this happened. So that was not the good way for them to start off the day, or I don't know if that happened yesterday. So that's the opposition, but that's a little bit in the past. So so let's see before this. Okay, before this they were kind of on fire and inspired, even though, and I guess they took this old code as a challenge. So that was yesterday, or the day before, when things were humming right along. And then we have, this is interesting, because everybody's been making a big deal, like they're getting into this, they're getting into that, but this is telling me that they haven't been as strong with this as we've been led to believe, even with the, of course, the mainstream media is going to say that, but even with the alternative stuff that I watch, it's like they may be giving them a little bit too much power and strength. So I'm going to say that that whatever strength that they thought they were showing is kind of false. So let's see. Oh, I'm feeling compelled with this deck. So conscious thoughts from yesterday is the Fool in reverse. I'm going to say that this has been I think what they thought is that this was the Brave New World is very foolish, very foolish, that they were very foolish to get into this whole thing they didn't think that they don't know the American mindset and how we as a people can really turn on a dime on people. I don't think that. So this was very foolish, and now I'm seeing that on a conscious level they could be really having some doubt, like, what did I do? Because they can see that this Marco dude, his life is it might play in South Africa, but I'm telling you, if he had any dreams of Europe and being global and that sort of thing, maybe not so much anymore. Okay. And then we have subconsciously, we have the Hermit. The Hermit upright, he's a solitary, wise figure, throwing light into the night and teaching people. In the reverse, it's pretty much of a lonely, isolated person that has had not any life experience and could be lonely. And I'm going to say that on a subconscious level, even though these boys are privileged, they could have been very much isolated from their contemporaries in school, and that may come out of being privileged and all this sort of thing. So what this is telling me is that you've thrown a bunch of boys together who are pretty much lonely and perhaps even outcasts. Um, to usually sometimes I'm thinking the people that get involved in this sort of thing that like they're very bright, but they're kind of considered geeks, if you know what I mean, and don't fit in with the cool kids, which is important at their age. So I have to say that's a recipe for this to be happening. And now they're struggling for power. So right now tonight right now we've got the King of Pentacles. So I think what they're looking for, this is a very solid, steady person. That emerald on that staff he has, and the riches and the gold throne, is that they're looking for a leader. But I'm going to say I'm seeing kind of fool's gold over this. So this is the impression that of the self. Maybe this is how they see 45, 47, whatever, as with all the gold and the guilt around him, is that's another hero that they have. This is like, I don't know, I see all this gold and I'm thinking these boys they're worshiping the golden calf, the hero. They sure did pick the wrong heroes, that's for sure. I think what they're doing is they're hoping one of these guys is going to come in and save them. I think that's what's going on. And these guys, the muskrat and the felon, they don't do saving except their own asses, actually. So then again, that's a recipe. And then continuing on, the Knight of, again, I think that they're waiting for someone to come and save them, like the knight on the horse to come charging in, and then with the cup to make them feel all better. That's not happening because their two heroes are too wrapped up in themselves and saying, what are we going to do about this now? It's a little bit late to try to bring in another alpha dog. He may try, but if they can't get in to do that, and it's just all a very big mess. So, hopes and fears. Justice in reverse. I think that they were hoping that this would go off without a hitch. But the fear is that in seeing karma meted out to their friend is putting a little bit of a fear into them, and also starting to hear, unless they're totally being cut off from, I don't think they are. I think that they're fearful that they could be, for the first time in their lives, may be held accountable for something, and that they could get arrested and deported. So that's going to put this energy into motion, and they're probably going to all try to throw each other under the bus and try to figure out who the hell threw us under the bus. And that's just okay. So that's the hope and fear, the justice in reverse, but it's inevitable. It's always inevitable. We all get away with the little things in life and maybe learn some lessons, but I'm saying this is big stuff, fooling around with the lives of millions of people, that this is just as lousy as karma, and it's going to catch up to them. So in the near future, we have the World, which is telling me that this could very well be this chapter of their lives, or maybe they wish their chapters. Okay, that's what I'm hearing this from my spirit team, is that they're wishing that maybe this chapter in their lives would end and that they could go home like nothing ever happened. And But then, since there's no accountability, they're going to, in order to get the closure, they're going to start blaming each other and getting paranoid about who was the one that let this find it and let it leak out. So, but this whole thing with the hero worship, with the two most god awful people you could ever imagine, that might be what's coming to an end too. Then, because we're going a little bit further in the future as they reflect back on from wherever they end up, is that the way they pick the wrong heroes, and that is a cycle that could definitely be done. So let's see the outcome of all of this. Now, this is a really interesting hermit. Now, we had this hermit card from the Rider deck, and he's just holding the lantern, and it's just he's in reverse. This one upright. This is very interesting. I haven't seen another deck. Well, I haven't seen all the decks. Okay, in this one, as he wanders the path of knowledge in his big journey, there is the serpent in the road, and he's contemplating, how do I get over this without getting bitten? Probably a poisonous one. And this and it is in the form of an infinity, which means that there's always going to be something in the road that's going to be an obstacle or something where you're going to have to take a risk. And how do I do it? Do I walk around it and hope that, it is a quandary, but every time someone gets around this, there's more knowledge. I'm thinking that these boys, pretty much because they have all this technical knowledge, pretty much thought they really knew the score. But what the serpent is, and that they were just going to go back and be somebody else's guru. But what they're learning is that they didn't realize what they were stepping into. Certainly the Marco that it was forced to resign, and he's probably going back to wherever he came from as we're speaking. And he has to take a plane out of here. Boy, talk about risky. I'm going to say is now they're realizing that path is not an easy one to take. And this could be the snake in the grass too. Who is the snake in the grass? And they're shining their light on the fact that there probably is a snake in the grass. They just don't know who it is and how they're going to approach them. So this would seem. So this is a very different hermit. This is the wise one. They need to get wiser about that. But this has turned out to be a very, very different journey. It's a lesson that I don't think they're real thrilled about learning, to be quite honest with you. So I would say that that they are starting to turn on each other, and I would say that just looking at those pictures and figuring their noses have been on a screen since they got on the bottle, as babies, and they don't know anything about life. I remember when I lived in Seattle, which became a rising tech mecca, and I worked at the hotels, and we had a lot of tech people having conventions, and I remember talking to someone at a cater out at the Science Center about. He said that he was working at CMU in Pittsburgh, and I said, "Oh, I'm from Pittsburgh," and I know at that point the Andy Warhol Museum had just opened, and I said, "Oh, have you been to the Andy Warhol Museum? I want to go there when I get back to." He looked at me like I was from Mars. I said, Andy Warhol. The guy didn't even know who Andy Warhol was. So that's pretty much telling you that and this was back in the 90s. This was like maybe 30 years ago, close to 30 years ago. And that tells me that, that as we've gotten more technology, it's like they know about that, but they don't know about life. They don't know about art. I mean, they're all they know about is technology and money. This is what I'm getting. And what this tells me from this reading is, of course, they're at each other's throats because they saw life as this was going to get them their fortune, and that maybe some of the muskrat was going to rub off on them. And now that they're seeing that that world is not as so assured to them as they thought it was going to be with the legal things, and maybe, and they're worried about what's going to be exposed to them because they could be coming from a very racist circle of people. So that would cause a conflict, and for them not to touch each other, trust each other. And I have to say, that's not a real winning team to do what they have to do, especially now that it's become very challenging technically. So yes, I would say that now what we're going to hear about it is another thing altogether. But I suppose there's, as time goes on, that's going to leak out. But my intuition, and this is all my psychic speculation for entertainment purposes only. And sometimes we're right, more often we're right, sometimes we're wrong, or sometimes we have misread the energy. So I have to say that this is not going to go on the 11 o'clock news because this is intuitive speculation. But it really looks to me like, yep, there's that page, the spy in the camp, and what they consider the snake in the grass, that they're trying to shine the light on it, but they may not have the intuitive ability, or that they may jump to the wrong conclusion. So I'm going to say it's not very pretty. So it'll be interesting to see what happens in the days coming up. So at any rate, everybody have a great rest of your day, and I'll see you soon. Bye.